Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
7:06 now this Tuesday morning. Thanks for tuning in here. Busy day coming up in 30 minutes. Ned Ryan's going to join us, give us his insights on where things stand right now, 4 weeks before Election Day. And then at 8:05, Selena Zito on the ground in Western Pennsylvania, as she always is. She was at that Butler rally, and she snagged an interview with the richest man on the planet, Elon Musk. I'd be so tempted, Julie Gunlock, when interviewing Elon Musk, and I intend to someday. I'm Larry O'Connor. That's Julie Gunlock. When you're interviewing Elon Musk and say, hey, one last question, $1 million? I mean, you can spare it. Honestly, you're literally the richest man in the world. How about $1 million? Could you just give me $1 million? I'd do so much with it. Right? How do you not do that? How do you not ask the richest man in the world to say it's like a 20 to the rest of us?
You're never going to interview
I'm never
going
to get an interview with Elon Musk. He seems like the guy who would say, you know what? I appreciate the audacity of that. Yes, absolutely. You're going to have $1 million in exchange for your soul. Joining us right now, friend of the program and an absolute expert on all things Red China and communism on the Pacific Rim. He's got a brand new book called Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America. He is Gordon Chang. Mr. Chang, it's always great to talk with you, especially when you've got a new book out. Congratulations on this publishing.
Well, thank you so much, Larry. And I'm sorry I'm not Elon Musk, but maybe you can talk to me.
You know, you could pick up a Starbucks coffee once in a while, Chang, honestly. I want to play this. 60 Minutes is dribbing and drabbing little clips of Kamala Harris's interview with Bill Whitaker there on 60 Minutes. And some of these things we're laughing at it, we're making fun of it. But when it comes to things like our support for Israel and specifically facing down the threat of China, it's downright terrifying. Listen to this, Gordon.
So say if China attacks Taiwan, would we use military force to support Taiwan?
Bill, I'm not going to get into hypotheticals, but listen, we need to make sure that we maintain a one China policy, but that includes supporting Taiwan's ability to defend itself, including what we need to do to ensure the freedom of the Taiwan Strait. We need to make sure we have open lines of communication with China, in particular, military to military.
Now, that is an answer, Gordon Chang, that I think I've heard for about 40 years now. And are we past the point of this sort of, carbon copy template rhetoric when it comes to Taiwan? Or is that the judicious, prudent answer?
Well, the answer that's more appropriate is the one that her boss, Joe Biden, has given 4 times in response to reporters. When asked whether the United States would defend Taiwan militarily, President Biden has said yes. Now, of course, on all 4 of those occasions, he let his subordinates undermine his clear answer. But nonetheless, in order to reestablish deterrence across the Taiwan Strait, we've got to make it very clear to China that they're going to have to fight. Because if they think they're going to have to fight, they're not going to invade.
Gordon, thank you for that answer, and I appreciate it. And let's pivot to your book for a moment, China's Project to Destroy America, because we see reports about China's investments in other nations. People don't realize this. They're making a huge play for the Caribbean. You worry about the missile crisis with Soviet Union and Cuba. They are all over Antigua and other Caribbean islands. Why? Why are they there? Why are they spending so much money on Africa? They're building highways and infrastructure. They build stadiums. They build expressways in all of these other nations. And obviously there is a player. What is their plan? What are they doing?
Well, ultimately what they plan to do is to destroy America, because the Communist Party it looks at this as an existential struggle. They do not believe that the party will ever be secure as long as the United States exists. And the reason is not because of anything we say, Larry and Julie, it's because of who we are. An insecure regime in Beijing is worried about the inspirational impact of America's values and form of governance on the Chinese people. So they don't believe that they can survive as if we're around.
Gordon, in your book, you say it's time to take a page from Ronald Reagan's playbook and work to bring down the enemy, which you identify as the Chinese Communist Party, which is really the driving factor on their goals to destroy America. How do we do that? How do we engage more with the Chinese people? What is the best method for that?
Well, first of all, Julie, China right now depends on the world. It's put its fate, actually, in our hands because Xi Jinping has turned his back on consumption as a basis of the Chinese economy, and he wants to export his way out of crisis. Well, we can block his products from coming into the U.S., and we should do that because many of his products, if not most of them, are made with forced labor. And under the Tariff Act of 1930, as amplified by the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act of 2021, they cannot come into the United States. Now, Biden has not enforced the Tariff Act of 1930 in the way that he should, but if we did, China wouldn't have the money that it needs in order to assault us. So they can only get at us with our own money.
That is going to take a lot of education on the part of our government explaining why we would start to block Chinese products because people like cheap products, and we get a lot of cheap products from China. How do we explain to the American public that it's in our best interest to start to reject products from China?
Well, because we're funding genocide and crimes against humanity. So if you're in favor of forced rape, torture, murder, concentration camp detentions, then go buy Chinese products. But, this is like supporting the Third Reich's slaughter of the Jews. So we do not believe in the extermination of any peoples, and we're financing it. And it's not an indirect way. We're directly financing it. And companies, some of whose names would be Apple or Nike, have used forced labor. While they lecture us about all sorts of things in the U.S., they're supporting genocide. I mean, this is just horrific. But the other way to put this is, look, China's building a military to kill Americans. They can only afford that with our money. So do you want to have them kill you with your own money?
Gordon Chang is our guest, and his brand new book is Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America. Buy it, and read it so you're prepped on what's going on here and you're prepared for whoever the president might be come next January. But if that president is Donald Trump, Gordon Chang, I know that you pay close attention to what both of these candidates say on the campaign trail and when they're pressed in interviews. I have noticed, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I've noticed a shift in how President Trump talks about China. There was a time when he was president and before when he was running for president where he talked like he could deal with it. We'll make a deal. We'll work things out. They were ultimately business people. I feel like that's shifted. The increase in promises for tariffs, the enticements for corporations to manufacture here at home versus overseas, it feels like he's preparing our economy and the consumers in America. It feels like he's preparing us all to recognize this new reality that is inevitable, that we wean ourselves from that cheap slave labor. Am I wrong in perceiving that?
No, you're absolutely right, Larry. I mean, in February of this year, Trump told Maria Bartiromo that he was going to impose Section 301 tariffs of at least 60% and maybe 100%. And those tariffs, if you remember, were imposed as a remedy for the theft of U.S. intellectual property, which has only gotten worse since 2018 when he first put them into place. And even President Biden has kept them in place because he realizes there's no alternative to this. Also, the other thing is that President Trump, he won't say this, but he must remember that his Phase 1 trade deal of January 2020, the Chinese dishonored it. And so, you can't deal with the Chinese. As much as you'd like to say, we can sort of come to some arrangement. No, you can't. Yeah. And that's unfortunate, but that's reality.
Gordon, this is too important. And also, I want to sell more of your books. Can you wait for a minute while we do a little traffic and then stick with us, or do you have another interview to get to?
I would love to stick with you guys.
Oh, good. All right. Gordon Chang continues because there's a couple of questions on Trump's approach with China that we have to deal with. First of all, how much of that is fueled by the reality of what happened during COVID-19, number one, and maybe that motivated the change in Trump's approach. But also, what will China's response be with that kind of Trump tariff imposition? We'll get to Gordon Chang and his book, Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America, for one more segment in a moment. First, though, at 7:15,
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Speaking to Gordon Chang, and again, let's buy his book, shall we? It's called Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America. Following up on that question, how Trump is definitely much more assertive and aggressive and basically, I feel, preparing industry and consumers in America to face the reality that, your phones and your T-shirts might end up costing more, although actually maybe not, depending on the lower regulations and the lower impositions if we manufacture these things here at home. But Gordon, I got to ask you, COVID-19, I would argue that the pandemic is what ruined Trump's reelection efforts. Everything was riding high. The economy was on all cylinders. There was no way to defeat Donald Trump in 2020 for reelection, except for that pandemic. Do you think that was a shift? And by the way, do you think that he still has unfinished business with Xi Jinping and what happened in Wuhan?
Yes, well, certainly we do, because we have not imposed costs on China for deliberately spreading that disease beyond its borders. We don't know 100% the origins of SARS-CoV-2, the pathogen causing COVID-19, but there is something that we know 100%, and that is that once this disease got out into the Chinese public, the Chinese leaders decided to spread it beyond their borders. They did that by lying about the transmissibility of the disease starting in December 2019 or earlier and continuing through January of 2020. And also, while they were locking down their own country, they were pressing other countries to take arrivals from China without restrictions. You put those two things together, and it's clear that they wanted that disease to spread out into the world. Yeah. That's 7 million people who died outside China, including, according to Johns Hopkins, 1.2 million Americans.
And it's critically important what you just said, and I want to emphasize it. All of the things that we heard early on from Fauci, from the World Health Organization, when they said, well, here's what we know about this virus. We didn't know those things about the virus. When they said, here's what we know, what they were really saying is, here's what China's told us. And now we know they lied.
Absolutely. And if Fauci was paying attention, which he obviously was not, it was clear that there was a highly contagious disease in Wuhan. And yet Fauci took assurances from China, which were obviously false. And Fauci, I think, did that because he knew that he had funded gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and that really was an evasion of President Obama's 2014 moratorium on the funding of gain-of-function research in the U.S. Yeah. Fauci just outsourced it to a Chinese biological weapons lab.
Back to your book, Gordon, Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America. We talked about these tariffs and what might happen should Trump become president, and a sort of a new approach to handling what's going on in China and our economic reliance on them for manufacturing. If those tariffs are imposed, if Trump is as aggressive as you're suggesting he might be, what will China's reaction be? Will they see that as an act of war? Will they react not economically, but militarily?
I don't think so for a number of reasons, but what we are seeing already in the South China Sea against the Philippines are acts of war, and these are against an American military ally, which means Xi Jinping, even though he's not made the decision to go to war or may not have made it, he has made the decision to risk war, and he's made the decision to risk war with a country which we have an obligation to defend, so he is now, at this moment, prepared to kill Americans. And President Biden has an obligation to talk to the American people about the seriousness of this, but he has failed to do so, which is, I think, an abrogation of his most solemn constitutional duty, which is to protect the American people from foreign attack.
Gordon, really quickly, I'd love to get your thoughts on Tim Walz's relationship with China. You know, he says he learned governance from China. He made dozens of trips to China. He's lied about his presence at Tiananmen Square. You know, there's some people that say he's just goofy. There's other people that say he's a Manchurian candidate. What are your thoughts about Tim Walz and his relationship with China?
Throughout this century, he has had continuous contact with the Communist Party's United Front Work Department, which is the part of the party that subverts foreign governments. He had it when he was taking students to China to expose them to Communist Party propaganda in the first decade of this century, and he's had it in this decade as governor of Minnesota, where he's had these very disturbing contacts with front organizations.
Gordon Chang, what are people not focusing on right now? I feel like, listen, we've had a good, 15, 20-minute conversation about China. This conversation needs to be happening all over the media right now, 4 weeks out from the election. What are we missing? What should people be talking about right now that's in your book that should be part of the conversation as we face a new administration?
Xi Jinping talks about going to war all the time. He's preparing China to go to war, not just as military, but civilian society as well. And he's made it very clear who he wants to kill. and that is, among others, Americans. And we need to focus on this because we could lose our country because we're not, we think we're at peace, and the Chinese are waging their brand of war.
Gordon Chang, it's always an informative conversation and a delight to speak with somebody so knowledgeable and also, frankly, so plain-spoken about this actual existential threat to freedom in the world that doesn't get enough attention. Gordon Chang, thank you so much for joining us,
Thank
my
you,
friend.
Gordon.
Thanks, Larry, and thanks, Julie. And I'm sorry I'm not Elon Musk.
Yeah, no, I am too. I really am, especially with all those nice things I said about you. You know, just
He's still thinking about that.
double cappuccino. Just that's all I'm asking. Just one time, pick up the coffee. Thanks, Gordon.
I'll get you one, Larry, and Julie, too.
Yay.
She did nothing to earn that. The book is Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America, and it's written by the great Gordon Chang.
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:36 on this Tuesday morning. Thanks for taking this ride with us through the news cycle and discussing all the things that matter most to us from our perspective and with the context that we expect from kind of media and information we deliver here on WMAL every single day. Coming up in 30 minutes, 8:05, Selena Zito on the ground in Pennsylvania. She was there at the Butler rally, and she landed an interview with Elon Musk. And we'll talk to her about all those things and what's going on there with the polls and with the voters in that critical state. I'm Larry O'Connor. That is Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
Joining us right now is the CEO of American Majority. We spoke with him about his brand new book, and I really do implore you to get it. It's so informative. It explains how we got here and how we can fix it. It's called American Leviathan, The Birth of the Administrative State and Progressive Authoritarianism. He is America's sweetheart, Ned Ryan. Ned, thanks for joining us.
I'm not sure I've ever been called America's sweetheart,
Well,
but great to be with you this morning.
It's actually backhanded because that's how Jimmy Kimmel introduced Tim Walz. So there you go.
We're introducing everyone like that.
wow.
Take it for what it's worth.
The reason it was lost on me, Larry, is I just don't watch Jimmy Kimmel.
I do.
Good for you.
You and hundreds of millions. I'd love for your assessment right now where we are. Because I don't know. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm fooled. But I'm feeling pretty good right now. If you're the Trump campaign and you're 4 weeks out and you're looking at the battleground numbers, you're better off right now, 4 weeks before Election Day, than you've ever been in the 3 times you've run for president.
Yeah, light years ahead. I'd much rather be Trump than Kamala Harris. I mean, just look at Pennsylvania. The numbers to me are pretty interesting. At this day in history, October 8th, 2020, Biden was up 7.1% in the RCP average in Pennsylvania. Today it's a dead heat.
Yeah.
So Trump's literally running 7 points ahead. There was a poll that came out yesterday, Larry, that shows Trump up 3 or 4 in Pennsylvania. And we all know what happened in 2020. Biden did not win by 7 points. He won by 1.2% or 80,000 votes. So he overpolled by about 6 points, and it's a dead heat right now. So you look at these numbers and go, okay, that's great. Again, I look at the real numbers, partisan registration advantage, absentee ballot requests. Democrats are hurting on that front. Again, they've lost 300,000 plus on the registration advantage in Pennsylvania. Their absentee ballot requests have literally just gone through the floor. They're in the basement right now. Republicans have gone up. So you look at those things, that's great. But more importantly, do you have the teams in place to actually be able to take advantage of those numbers? And there are a lot of people who figured out since 2020, we better be in the absentee ballot chase, early vote game. And you're seeing outfits like myself, but also America PAC. There's Turnout for America. They have significant teams in some of these states. I know that there's 600 people right now for Turnout for America in Pennsylvania doing absentee ballot chase. And you got Cliff Maloney's group. I think he's got 150, 200. And then we're in other states like Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, North Carolina. So you're seeing a very robust effort in addition to whatever the Trump campaign is doing.
Well, let me throw another state into the mix there, Ned Ryan from American Majority. It's a state you're relatively familiar with. It would be the Commonwealth of Virginia, because yesterday a new poll dropped from Democracy Institute, 800 likely voters. Harris is only showing a 2-point advantage right now over Trump. Biden, the final results, I think, showed 10 points. Is Virginia something that is a place where we're actually drawing some focus on here 4 weeks out?
I would like to think that Virginia is in play, but I think it would be even more so if the Trump campaign would invest significant resources. But Virginia is not the same state that it was in 2020. Like you said, Biden won by 10, and then you had Glenn Youngkin win along with Miyares and Winsome Sears. You had him pick up the House of Delegates. The things have changed dramatically, and I would remind people I was involved in the state Senate races last year in Virginia. The entire statewide difference over 40 state Senate races was about 12,000 votes. This state has become very competitive since 2020. So is it in play on a really good night for Trump? I think it is. Okay. I would definitely say, Larry, let's be very realistic. It's going to be tough. It's on the outskirts.
I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. But really quickly, follow up: Virginia 10 with Mike Clancy, Virginia 7 with Derek Anderson, and even that Senate race, which is tightened with Hung Cao. Maybe you don't get Trump over the hump, but with Glenn Youngkin campaigning, with the newfound vigor with early voting and getting Republicans out there to play this game, could it make a difference there, if not at the top of the ticket?
I think so. I just saw numbers out of Virginia 7 this morning in which that is a dead heat right now with ABEV vote, which should be startling and somewhat panicking to Democrats. The fact that Republicans are competing so closely in the absentee ballot and early vote numbers should terrify them, because on Election Day, Republicans traditionally crush Democrats on Election Day voting. So if Republicans can be narrowly behind or tied or even just a fraction in the lead coming into Election Day on the ABEV vote, it is not good for Democrats at all. And right now you're seeing those numbers, especially in Virginia 7.
That was absentee and early voting, by the way, for those of you who don't talk D.C. politics.
Ned, I want to shift over a little bit to your book. In Leviathan, you talk about how there's sort of this fourth branch of government, the administrative state, and it really endangers our democratic system. And we hear a lot of people saying, this is the most important election, our democracy's on the line. But I don't hear a lot of people connecting that to the administration or the administrative state. And I really worry about the administrative state. How confident are you that the Trump administration, if they win, will really tackle this important issue?
I think it's one of the top issues for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I was thrilled. Sunday evening, he posted on Truth Social that people need to go buy the book. He thought it was great. Even called, I don't even know why he called me brilliant, but I'll take it. Brilliant Ed Ryan in his book. It is the antithesis. The administrative state is the antithesis of representative democracy. Yep. It's been the entire point from day one that you would have unelected bureaucrats do the actual governing of this nation. And I think people woke up, especially with Donald Trump showing up and saying, hey, I'm the one who decides. And they're like, no, we decide. I think Trump has put in place some things, just having had some conversations with folks, that he understands day one that he has to address this issue, devolve and break apart the administrative state. And again, I would remind people, most of this massive bureaucracy of these unelected bureaucrats resides in the Article 2 executive branch, the head of which is duly elected president of the United States. And I think Donald Trump has the political courage and will to actually start breaking it apart.
Yeah, he doesn't have to ask anybody's permission to do that, not even Jake Tapper's. The book is American Leviathan, The Birth of the Administrative State and Progressive Authoritarianism. He is Ned Ryan, CEO of American Majority.
The brilliant Ned Ryan.
Apparently it's America's brilliant sweetheart. There you go.
There we go.
That's all right, Ned. Well, just put it in your writer. Thank you, Ned. Good talking with you.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
It's 7:44.
Later this morning on the Chris Plant Show, anti-Semitic attacks on campus up 500% in 1 year, thanks to the Democrats. 9 a.m. on WMAL.
As we keep mentioning, coming up at 8:05, we'll talk to Selena Zito, who got an interview with Elon Musk when she was in Butler, Pennsylvania for that rally where Elon Musk appeared at. I'm suggesting that we could interview Elon Musk and ask for an easy $1 million from him, because that's like a 20. He just flips it out. Here's $1 million. Right, he's got it's like he tips somebody to carry his bags at the
it would be hard not to ask, I'll admit.
And Tucker Carlson got to sit down with Elon Musk, and a lot of people are like, well, Elon's just supporting Trump because he wants tax breaks so he can get richer and everything. And there is some self-interest here, but it's not so he can get richer. He's doing just fine, right?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, if he were really looking out for self-interest, he would be quiet.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Well, here, he'll explain the self-interest aspect. It's not so he can get richer or get more power or what have you. It's, well, let him tell you.
If he loses, man, what?
If he loses, I'm...
It does seem that way.
If I lose, I'm bleeped.
Yeah, you get
I'm
it.
effed.
Yes,
Yeah, that's what this is really about. He's extended himself. He's pushed back. He's like, and now he's realized, oh my gosh, they're going to destroy me.
Yep.
Now I got to go all in on Trump.
You can't just be like, yo,
Yeah, I'm like, how long do you think my prison sentence is going to be? Do you think? Will I see my children? I don't know.
Because it's not like you can say, well, yeah, I maxed out to him, but, I get...
I have no plausible deniability. No, and I've been trashing Kamala nonstop.
Oh, I know.
Well, the Kamala puppet, I call her. The machine that the Kamala puppet represents.
Yeah, she's irrelevant. I mean, she's not even.
Yeah, he is. He's screwed if he wins. That's why Bezos is like playing all sides against the middle and playing it. It reminds me of when, during the 2016 campaign, obviously, we were supporting the Republican candidate. We were supporting Donald Trump. We were all in for it. We were excited. The last thing we wanted was Hillary Clinton, because I really do believe Hillary Clinton and the left pose an existential threat to what we do here in conservative media.
Absolutely.
They will destroy us if possible. They want to censor us. They want to get away with the fairness doctrine for talk radio, all that stuff. So, very important. And then when Meredith and I woke up one morning to learn that Steve Bannon had joined the Trump campaign. So for those of you who don't know, this has nothing to do with politics. We used to work with Steve Bannon at Breitbart back in the day when he took over the company after Andrew, and there was a mass exodus. A lot of us who worked with Andrew ended up leaving. Again, has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with personality. But we found ourselves at odds with Steve and his management style. Let's just leave it at that. And Meredith looked at me and she said, well, no matter who wins, we're in the concentration camps. So Elon is facing his existential threat here if Kamala wins.
But if he loses, it's going to be hard for you to pretend you never supported him.
All in.
He's all in.
In the deep end.
Yeah, no, you are definitely in the deep end. You cannot touch bottom.
No, I'm like rolling around. I'm like a pig in mud. I'm like, it's all in, baby.
Is it fun?
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
How hard?
I mean, there may be some, in the hopefully unlikely event that he loses, there may be some vengeance on me.
Were you kidding?
I mean, it's possible.
Now, that's interesting that he says there will be vengeance. But what I found interesting there, this is a man who reads things, right? He reads the map in front of him. He reads the terrain. He reads industry. He reads public sentiment. He's literally the most successful businessman of our time, maybe all time, with PayPal, with Tesla, with SpaceX, with the Boring Company, with X now. By the way, everyone laughed at him buying X. It's the most dominant news delivery system on the planet now. Did you hear what he said? In the unlikely event that Trump loses, based on where he's sitting, he's not hedging. He's not like you and I was like, it's a toss-up. Who knows what'll happen? It's going to be. No, his position right now, looking at where things are, is he's likely to win.
Yes.
I found that fascinating.
Yeah, and I mean, look, he's been very brave because obviously he's going against sort of what most industry does, and that is sort of either stay out of it or support the left.
Mm-hmm.
But he's feeling confident, and I don't think he would publicly say that if he wasn't. So
he wouldn't be publicly saying any of the things he's saying if he